Hi everyone, my name is Maddie Mackey with Rise Above Yoga, and this is the first interview of the Outcome Mastery interview series. Today with me, I have Alexis Buck with Ascension Diaries, and we're so excited to have you here. And I'll just give you a moment to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your intention and your business.
Certainly, and thank you so much for having me, Maddie. It's much appreciated. Every opportunity I can get to bring about the topic that I study is much excites me because it's a very rapidly expanding topic in the collective mind, the collective consciousness, and I've been working with something called the Schumann Resonance, which is, and my entire blog is about it, so I will report the scientific actual graphs and things like that that are studying this frequency, which is, it's kind of like the Earth's brainwave frequency. It's in the ionosphere, which is like the plasma or electron layer of our planet, and it's a frequency that's always going off, and our brainwaves sync with it. It is its own brainwave in a way of the planet. And there's also interference in a lot of military work that's being used and bouncing off of it and things like that, that can cause humans and us to, on our own brainwaves, to be distorted. But also there's natural reasons why the ionosphere will get excited, like the sun giving off extra energy and magnetic fluxes and things like that, other star systems, whatever. So it's a very fascinating topic to work with, and I work with a lot of people who are very sensitive to the reports, and they know that there is something going on because they'll either text me or they'll check the charts online themselves and be like, hey, there's something crazy going on. I'm having a hard time getting out of bed, I'm having anxiety, or I'm having revelations. And any type of array of opportunities can happen because it's all brain wave related. And not only that, our whole magnetic sphere from our heart center, and we have our own little magnetic bubble around us, just like the planet. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on. So it's a very complex, in a way, topic, but it's a great way to help people who are having symptoms like anxiety, or having a hard time getting out of bed or things like that, and they're taking pharmaceutical medication and things like that instead of just kind of waiting it out, or doing things to reduce heavy metals in your body, which will affect your brain waves, and or getting enough water, enough sleep, or reducing anxiety, or other environmental factors like being in front of a computer too much, or working under fluorescent lights and things like that. There's all these changes and things you can make to help with your sensitivity. It's been really empowering to a lot of people to see the reports I put out, because hey, the space weather is going off, so don't be frightened, if you're having unexplainable things going on in your body. And it's been fantastic to be able to help a lot of people with these symptoms and with this understanding, because it's something I feel like we should all really know about, and it should be reported just as simply as the weather itself. And the fact that it isn't, and that it's taken me, and a few other people now are reporting on it, blogging about it, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, to bring this to the collective and kind of bring some understanding about what's going on. It's silly to me, but I'm grateful that I've been able to be a part of that. And now we get to talk more about it, bring it to the attention of other people. I'm going to be speaking at a place called Resonate Fest this weekend, which is over by Sedona. It's in Camp Verde, and I'm going to be speaking for the first time in front of people about this phenomenon and how to work with it, how to check, how to take care of yourself, how to talk about it to other people, because people who don't even really follow this stuff, aren't into energy or into consciousness, are still being affected. People will notice that their kids, their dogs, their parents, all these people are having emotional, psychological events happening during the same time that these events are occurring, that these highly energized times or disturbances are happening. So it's very fascinating. It's a passion of mine. I've been doing it for a few years, and yeah, I'm just grateful to hopefully be able to explain it in a simple way so more people can be empowered to understand that this is just a part of our life, just as much as anything else in our environment, like the weather.
Beautiful. That was such an amazing description. And it's like exactly why I wanted to have you come on, because I think so many of us can connect to the outside parts of our environments and the influences we have. And a lot of us maybe relate to like the moon or, these different cycles that we're very familiarized with.
Totally.
But when it comes to the Schumann resonance, like we're not familiarized with it at all, like you were saying, and it's not something that's reported on, regular news stations or weather channels or whatnot. And I've been following your profile for quite some time and looking it up myself and just checking like on, like you said, these science-backed websites like NASA and places that are really like doing trustworthy research, that every time I'm having like any sort of emotional disruption, it's the first thing I check. And there's usually like a huge spike in the frequency changing, which I'm never surprised, but I'm just like, it's starting to get to this point where I'm like, wow, people need to be educated about this and, checking it just for their own accountability. And if I, like you said, with the help with the mental health and help with anxiety and stuff like that, it just makes so much sense that when we can use this resource to help create like accountability with ourselves and understand like why things are feeling difficult and have some sort of explanation instead of confusion, we can go so far with it and we can grow so much as individuals.
I totally agree. And the one fascinating thing is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term biofeedback, but it's a term that they use in psychology and so on, where they have a machine hooked up to your body, something that'll measure your electrical current on your skin due to sweat or something like that. When you're having an emotional reaction, or you're about to have some type of, I don't know, some type of episode, the machine will go off or something like that. Or you go back and look at the data and see how you actually were performing during this episode. And people have used this, these charts, the Schumann Resonance, in a similar way. They will have an episode where you're like, you totally have a mental breakdown or something, you're crying, you don't know what's going on, or you're totally elated and you have no idea why, you just are riding this crazy high, you're dizzy. And then they look back and they're like, oh, this happened. And then they start to recognize this in their own body and understand that this is possibly an electric event that's bigger than them. It's because of our planet, or something is going on with our own planet or our sun. And it's so empowering to know that you're so intrinsically connected to these huge bodies, which we are. We can't vibrate on this planet if we aren't in coherence with the planet. We would vibrate out of existence. Our atoms wouldn't be able to form together. And so it's super fascinating and helpful, because people are like, wow, I'm having this experience, and then they check afterwards and it really happened at the same time. Then they start to recognize that their own ability to intuit their connection to the planet and things going on is actually very tangible. It's real, and you never really thought about it before, but it's such a organic connection in a way, and it really, I think, helps people bring back the understanding that they are so connected to their environment, to nature. They take better care of themselves and then take better care of their planet, because they understand how much more they're connected.
Absolutely. And that connection is so important, and why like it's so cool that social media is coming up, and the spread of information is so like vast right now that we're able to prove this with science, because like I'm a science major and studied geology and astronomy in college,
Right.
and to know that I think the Schumann resonance, like in all of the astronomy classes I took over 5 years at university, was brought up like maybe a couple times, and like in no detail, just like
I'm
in,
surprised they actually brought it up at all.
yeah, I mean, I took like this astronomy class and it was life on other planets, so it's where we were actually getting to like focus on things that were a little more out there than a university would normally expose you to, I guess, in some cases. But I mean,
Yes.
the human resonance was strictly brought up in like a definition format, not really in a how are we connected to it format, like it wasn't like that. So I think this is something that people can really latch on: scientific information and emotional intelligence, and combine those two things, which you know a lot of things do have that. A lot of things you might have to dig for to find that in the healing realm, or in a lot of sort of healing modalities, if you will. But this is something that you don't really have to dig that far. Like, people are talking about it. Very brilliant, intelligent scientists are talking about it, and you can feel it. If you're just like a human that's a little bit in touch with yourself, you can tell.
It's true. And it's funny you mentioned university, and I am surprised to hear that it came up at all, which I found out about it after my psychology degree. And to have something as, and at the time I didn't know how important it was, but to have any environmental factor that's connected to your brain waves not be mentioned in a 5-year degree, or like 4.5 year degree about your brain and all the psychological effects that can happen to you, to not have that be brought up, I was very curious and very distraught. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out and see if it has any holds any water, doing my own research instead of going back to school, because I was like, this is a sham. Like, I was very, honestly, I was very upset. I still am kind of triggered about it.
I
I'm like,
am
this
too.
is ridiculous. And the fact that there is like now thousands of people following the work that I'm doing, and not even just me now. There's people have taken my, like, I don't know, the formula, and have brought it into their own realms, because they have their own community of, enlightened, or, healing people, mindful people. And it's still all of the research and everything that's coming back, the data, the people's comments, is like, yes, I really did feel this. Yes, like, this event makes sense to me in my day. And it's usually a substantial thing that had happened to them that day is connected at the same time as the Schumann resonance was being active. And that to me is just such an oversight in our education system and the scientific community. The fact that I have to be the one bringing this to people instead of, people who I know there's people studying this, because the military is working with the ionosphere. They're bouncing waves off of it. They're shooting stuff in the ground. They're working like ley lines, and they're poking holes through it and everything. Like, the more research I've been doing, I'm just like, this is insane. And they've just kept it under basically hush. Like, it's not talked about, because I feel like it is so important, and it has been improperly treated. And I'm just grateful now that, for some reason we're all figuring it out right now, and it's going to put an end to it, because there's like thousands, not even like over the last few years, thousands and thousands and thousands of people are all coming together and talking about this phenomena. Like, and when I started, nobody was talking about it. Like, no, there wasn't blogs and things about it. Like, maybe one or two I could find, but it was really sparse. And now it's everywhere, and it's awesome. And the more smart people working on this, the better, because I don't even have the education and understanding of physics and atmospheric science that I could, and so many more people have. So I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that this is working and people are aware, and we're getting the ball rolling.
Yes, we just need to get all the financial investments into the studies behind these things, and like the tests that could possibly be done into like accessing more research and just more facts that will come so easily that you won't really have to dig that hard for these. Because like you said, the timing, like when you look at the charts on your profile or on the space centers like websites where they're posted by the government, you can see like if you've had an episode at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the peak of the Schumann resonance will be at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And it's shocking how correlated it is with the collective's energy. And maybe a bunch of people had a rough day around you, or a big traumatic event happened, or something's going on. It's just hand in hand with these reports. And I'm just continuously following it, just because it continues to prove me and all of this healing research like correct, that they have so much to do with the connection with the earth.
Yes, and gratefully, there has been some programmers and other people who, like, there's a Twitter account that I don't know who runs it, but it's called Schumann Bot, and it'll tweet every time that there is a disturbance in the Schumann resonance on the Russian charts that I share. And there's an American company that also shares Schumann resonance measurements, but I've had my complaints with them because they don't share actually what they're measuring, like the actual, what's the word I'm looking for? The units that they're measuring the power and things like that with. And I feel like that would be very helpful for comparative study.
Right.
And they post a day late, and it's like there is this facade also with like, oh, we are working on this and tracking this and blah blah blah, but it's a day late. It doesn't help anybody in the moment who want to check and things like that. But thankfully now there's people developing things like the Schumann bot, who that'll tweet out when it's going off. And again, great for biofeedback because, hey, it's going off, and then you go, oh, and you check in with yourself. How am I feeling? What is going on? And that is also very helpful, like mindfulness, awareness training, and emotional intelligence. Like you said, I'm definitely going to hold on to that one because it's very true. It definitely increases your emotional intelligence. And also, one thing I want to mention is that there's been, since I started researching this, there's been, I want to say, rumors in the awakening community, in the psychic community, where people will maybe psychically get a message, hey, this energy is coming, or they'll feel it in their body because they're just more sensitive. And then they'll be posting about it, but they're posting about it in a very like unscientific way. They're using units and terms that aren't true and or totally kind of misguided. And I don't think they're doing it on purpose a lot of the time, but it's a lot of them are also saying that the Schumann resonance is increasing, and they don't specify what that means. And the Schumann resonance is a frequency. It's actually a few frequencies. It's like multiple peaks, like multiple notes in a scale of note, like in a scale. So there's multiple notes that play, and it's all because of the shape of the earth and the density of the ionosphere and all this. Like our earth would have to shift quite a bit for these notes to really change. But they're like, oh, the notes are changing and the hertz is changing and it's rising and everything. And I'm like, I don't think that's true in that way. But what is going on that I have observed is that the frequency of events where the Schumann resonance is increasing in its power, where it is being powered up, where there's more energy behind the noise. So like the note is playing louder, or notes, multiple notes, and some notes will play louder than others at different times. And that's been changing too. Some notes, usually the first note, 7.83, is the loud, I've noticed is the most active. But lately we've been seeing 24 hertz, which is one of the notes, being very consistently active, which is new. Don't know what that means. Could mean that they're just beaming something at the ionosphere that's causing that particular frequency to increase in power. Don't know. These are all guesses, but like the logic behind it isn't that hard to follow. And to say that it's increasing, I think, is irresponsible unless you're mentioning that it's increasing in events of powerful events. Like there's more powerful events in a month, and there's another person who's making these infographics where they post an image of the Schumann resonance in a monthly calendar, so you're actually able to see the days where it blasts, and it's fantastic. And I have noticed in my work that the blasting is happening more often. The power is increasing more often than it did when I began. And what that means, I'm not even entirely sure. Some people say it means that it's causing our own brain waves to be disturbed. But if it's disturbed or overpowered by Earth's natural sound, I don't see that as a big deal, because really all of the things, all the technologies out there that are giving off other powerful frequencies that are not natural. They aren't trees, they aren't rocks, they aren't our planet, they are Gwen towers and like telephone towers and blah blah blah, all these towers releasing frequencies and waves that aren't human, and they aren't earth. And so if the earth is getting louder, it's just going to, in my opinion, drown out all the artificial stuff. And when it does get loud, and our field, a lot of all those other frequencies do have a harder time transferring, radio waves, things like that. So it's not a bad thing that this thing is getting louder, but I do notice that it does cause people to have effects. And I think it has something to do with the fact that we've been so drowned in fake, I want to say maybe not fake, but non-human, non-organic frequencies, like in cities and things like that, from our Wi-Fi, whatever. And it's kind of messed with us in a way. And so we're actually coming back to nature, but it's an uncomfortable process because we've kind of fallen away from nature. And it's very fascinating. And I currently don't think it's a danger to us that the frequency is rising, but it's not even, the frequencies aren't rising, it's the power behind them. So it's
Mm.
kind of confusing, but I just definitely want to clarify that for people watching, because that's a huge thing that will like a huge headline that'll keep coming. Oh, it's rising, it's rising. And I totally disagree with that phrasing, and I don't want to be difficult, but it could even be a disinformation thing and a way to kind of freak people out. And I don't think people need to be afraid of this, but definitely they need to watch. And because, as I said, the military is also using this area of our planet for their own means, and I don't agree with it. And I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I'm optimistic that it's gonna be a win for nature over this fake stuff that's going on.
I mean, that's so amazing that you say that. And it is something to ponder. Like, is Earth trying to bring us all back to equilibrium? And I myself agree with you. I think it's powerful enough to do so. And I think I study quite a bit, like all the electromagnetic frequencies and waves and stuff that are affecting us on this regular basis. That just from having a cell phone near our body, or having Wi-Fi on in our homes, and just this thing that we're constantly relying on and surrounded by. And if someone snapped their finger and made that all go away, like, that would trigger a lot of people. So I mean, that does have a lot to do with when the Schumann resonance is getting powerful, it's causing those things to be disrupted, which causes human or our current organic living lifestyle to be disrupted. I could see how that would become a disturbance for people and cause some emotional disturbance. And it makes so much sense to me.
And I'm pretty sure that it's very possible that the technology that we use can work in the same frequencies and in coherence with our planet and nature and our bodies. And it either is laziness or some other type of reason, I'm not going to go there, that it's not currently like that. But I feel like that has to be a direction we go with this, because we really are beginning to separate so drastically, and most people can't even be around the technology anymore. They have to, or they can't be around cities anymore. A lot of the people who follow my blog, especially, who are sensitive and feel these waves coming and whatever, a lot of my clients have quit their jobs, and I've worked with them to help them move out of the matrix and the false technology and the false frequencies, because they're under their bodies are becoming incoherent and they can't function anymore. They've got ear ringing all day long. They've got migraines. They've got, disturbances in their gut and
Mm.
their hearts. Like, all of these spaces that are very, our own technology in a way, that give off their own fields, are being disturbed. And I've worked with people many times to help them move out of that place where they're unhealthy. And I've done it myself. Like, I don't even live in a normal conventional way anymore, because myself become very sensitive to this, which is why I report on it, because it's like, oh, I'm not crazy and all these other people agree with me.
Right.
It's been nice, but it's also been hard. And I I definitely want to push in that direction, where it's like, we need more organic, earth like frequencies and technologies and things. If we're going to keep going technological, I don't think the earth is going to allow it. I think there's going to be a certain point where we're not going to be able to exist in one or the other. And you're either going to be putting the technology in your own body to be able to be in the tech world, or you're going to be completely taking it out and leaving it, because you just physically cannot be in coherence with that and also be outside and enjoy nature. So it might get to that point, but I hope not. I hope it's a much smoother transition, where uh, the government and everything releases this information and actually becomes more benevolent and helps us all kind of move in the more natural and healthy direction, which I think it is, because there's so many of us people pointing fingers and demanding that these things change because we want to keep living and
Right.
enjoying our lives. So it's a big motivator.
Yeah, and I think like the first step we can do is just continue spreading this information to as many people as possible, because that's how, the government's going to have to wake up, and the government's going to have to realize like they're going to be outnumbered when enough people are educated about what's going on and this information's accessible on the internet, and from resources that they aren't able to control right now. And the spread of information will happen so quickly. And just myself having done research and knowing about like what some of the things the government are experimenting on and are like researching, it's happening. Like they can't talk about it. It's, there's secrecy and there's legal things, and that's people's like jobs and lifelines and employments that they, for the respect of their own reasons, like can't share. But you can tell when you're an intuitive person, when you ask someone who's in that line of work a question about it, they get uncomfortable really fast and they run away from the topic. And it's been something I've kind of played with for a while, just bringing it up to people. And
Nice.
I've never gotten a like, no, we're not doing that. But I've never gotten like a yes, but I've definitely haven't gotten a no. I've gotten like a cannot discuss this at this time. And I'm like, oh, well, that leads me to believe something's going on.
Do you mind if I ask you what type of people you mean that you're speaking with? Like what kind of professionals, just briefly?
I'm just talking more people who have been in the military, so either veterans or current military members,
Okay.
that that know and have access to this information. And it's boundaries that I would not expect them to cross with their secrecy and stuff that they have to have for their line of work. But it's something that I've spent a little bit of time digging in and researching, and maybe like slightly harassing, like I don't know. Like I don't know if that's appropriate word to use.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah, I mean, I've never gotten a no. So like know that it's not happening. So it's just
Same.
there's shit going on, and this is the spread of this information. The more people in the collective who wake up and figure it out and start aligning with it, the earth is more powerful than the government. The earth is more powerful than all of us. Like the earth will do what it's going to do at the end of the day. And when we like zoom out and remember that we're just these beings floating on this rock in space, and then we just come to that reality, and we're like dealing with Instagram and our phones and like all these little issues that we think are like meaning our whole life, we're like, what is going, it just like always makes me smile, because I'm like, we are just floating through this, and like the earth is always gonna win, and we might be destroying it as like a population, and we might have some issues, but the earth will revolt. And I think the people who are at one and connected with Mother Gaia and Mother Earth are going to be protected, and we're going to show the respect and the energetic frequencies that we give off to let her know that we're with her.
I would say I agree. And also, I think a lot of people who are in alignment with nature, they also understand that, life and death are so very similar and abundant. And if this thing happens, people aren't afraid if their bodies don't make it through, because they're like, well, I was a good person and I loved, and things are going to be okay for me no matter what happens. and I can't say that that's the behavior of some people, especially the people who are involved with these atmospheric sciences. Sometimes it's like they aren't doing things out of love, and it's hard because I want to be also warning them, being like, hey, we know about this is changing, you can switch teams, like it's no big deal, we're gonna forgive you, we're the happy loving team, so why don't you just give it a try.
Like, come to the good side.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Save your soul.
Well, yeah, seriously, save it now. Well, I would just like to move into the final question that I would like to ask you. And just if you have any like self-care practices that you've been working with lately, or any routine or something that maybe you do in your daily life that has something to do with Schumann or doesn't, or just brings you joy that you'd like to share.
I would like to share something, and this is what's coming to mind. But the last year and so forth, and pursuing my purest vibration, my purest self, I've come up against a lot of emotions and thoughts and things that I wouldn't even really identify with, like anger and all of these dark thoughts and this like self-deprecation and all this nonsense. And I really feel like the more you truly want to get in alignment with yourself and with your pureness of your soul, the more there is going to be a bit of a pushback, especially in the current situation we're in, and to not identify with those things and to really try. I'm a very emotional person. So when the emotions come up, I'm like, oh, this is me. But there is ancestral trauma and DNA and things that have happened to our ancestors that are like surfacing during these high powerful times of the Schumann resonance. And there's programming in our minds from when we were children about how life is really supposed to be, which is not an organic way to live. Giving away your energy and time to work for someone else, having guilt about traveling the land and being in nature and taking time for yourself. All those things, like if it ever feels negative or self-deprecative, definitely don't give it the power to don't identify with it. It isn't yours. It's it's just an opportunity for you to sit and give yourself extra love, and also try and redirect the energy, because as soon as you can reprogram that as quickly as you possibly can, the easier and easier it's going to be every time. And it's going to have effect not only on you, but on everybody who ever comes into your field. And you're going to be able to help other people by having that I want to say discipline over yourself love and the love for others, and you choose love every time. So that has been the biggest challenge for me lately, has been all of this guilt and things about pursuing this path, this science, this path of my own purity, getting away from society and all these things I was supposed to do and was programmed to do as a child, and my parents and my parents' parents, and it just keeps going. And we're really breaking the chains, and it's not easy. But it is. It's easy. It's not easy, but it is easy, because it really can be like a snap of the fingers if you have the discipline to be like, no, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not going to continue. I'm not going to put that vibration in me and then keep pushing it out with my brainwaves or my thoughts or my voice. I'm not going to let it live any longer. And you're going to transmute it into something better. So just totally flip the script. And I think that's been a huge part of this process, and I'm working into helping other people kind of get into that, because we're plenty strong enough to fight back and change it. And it's simple. You don't even need to fight. You just need to change it. It's like making something nasty into butterflies. That's what I've been doing lately anyways. Is like whenever this thought, I'm just like, it's butterflies now. I love butterflies. It's so easy, and we're so powerful, and we're creating a new world, and it's all about working on making the bliss inside, and then it shoots right out into your environment. You'll notice that things are getting better and changing, and even in the news, like your whole environment's going to shift as long as you choose love and creating making it better. And that would be my advice.
I love it. That's such great information, and really true how much we're breaking the cycle right now, and breaking the cycle for our lives and the future generations. And it's a really important work to do, and it can happen really quickly once you're committed to it.
Totally.
And why don't you let everyone know where they can find you and your blog?
Sure. So I do an Instagram blog, and it posts on Facebook as well. Those are the biggest audiences. I also have a YouTube channel and a Patreon, which is basically how I've been affording to live this way and do this work. Is I do sessions, one-on-one sessions with people. I do tarot readings for them, and I work with people one-on-one, and that's how I afford this. So if you want to find me, you can go to alexisbuck.com, And all of those links are there, alexisbuck.com. But yeah, if join the community on Instagram, which is Ascension Diaries, Facebook, Ascension Diaries, YouTube, Ascension Diaries. And there is literally thousands of people who comment and work with this phenomena, and we'd be very happy to have you. It's a great community, and if you have something to give as well, your information, your knowledge, if you have insider knowledge about this stuff, we're ready. We're ready to hear it, and you can contact me at ascensiondiaries@gmail.com if you want to talk about it. We can bring it out to the public, whatever it needs to be done. Like, there's no hard feelings. Let's just get the clarity and have a good time.
Thank you. I love it. And I'll definitely put your information in the show notes as well. So it's easy click away. And thank you so much for coming on. This has been such a lovely conversation. And I think everyone's going to learn so much. And even if it just plants the seed for them to Google what Schumann Resonance is, like, that's a step in the right direction. And I hope everyone goes and follows you and checks out your page. It's so much valuable information and it's easily accessible there. So Alexis does a great job of giving us all the access that we need to the
I
Schumann.
try.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, I will talk to you later.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you again, Maddie, for having me.
Of course. Bye, everybody.